The collapse of a great metropolis. The fall of Rome. Today we will talk about the fall of a great metropolis. The most populous, the center of the civilization, the largest metropolitan area in the world. The cultural, financial, and media capital of the era, significantly influencing the world with commerce, entertainment, education, politics, art, fashion, and sports. And has sometimes been called the capital of the world. Yes, we are talking about the great city of New York. The great city of ancient Rome and how it fell. The Roman Empire, to be precise we mean the Western Roman Empire, was one of history's most iconic and impressive achievements. As the capital, Rome was the first metropolis in European history. During the 2nd century, the city of Rome had a population of more than 1 million. No Western city would have as many again until the 19th century. But such a great city and empire still met its end. The collapse of Rome wasn't overnight. It was a process, and the same goes for the British, Ottoman, Spanish, and all other empires. In 1984, Alexander de Mant, a German historian, provided a list of 210 reasons for Rome's decline, including some entertaining ideas like gout, earthquakes, and female emancipation. The fall of Rome is an everlasting topic for the historians, or others. Hi kid, here is the topic for your graduation thesis. The fall of Rome. Sure teacher. 3 months later. The fall of Rome is the best time to visit Rome because the comfortable temperature for being staying outdoors. And also there will be the International Film Festival. Good, but how about the invasion by barbarian tribes? The Huns and Goth. What is that? Today the major parts of the world were experiencing the longest peaceful time in history, with no worry of territory invasion but only economic troubles. But in Romans' time, there were endless wars on the border with all kinds of barbarians. The most straightforward theory for Western Rome's collapse pins the fall on a string of military losses sustained against outside forces. Rome had tangled with Germanic tribes for centuries, and it's okay. But suddenly, from the east, another barbarians tribe called Huns came out of nowhere. In the beginning it is still okay, because they were far away and they fight with the Germanic tribes from the east, good. But gradually it became not okay, because the Germanic tribes were more and more afraid of Huns. And the Huns drove many Germanic tribes to the borders of the Roman Empire. So the attack from the Germanic tribes became more and more troublesome, and finally, they sacked the city of Rome. Twice. And even worse, in the year 476, the West Rome Empire was ended by their own army leader who was a Germanic mercenary. Although this seems to be the most straightforward theory, the barbarian invasions were there ever since the first day of the Rome Empire. The defense ability from Rome themselves was declined with the time pass. The more serious problem was inside of the empire. It was gradually from young and strong, changed to be aging and vulnerable. One of the obvious signs for this change is the lack of soldiers. The army of Rome gradually became an army of the mercenaries. In 476, the Germanic leader Odoacer staged a revolt and deposed emperor and ended the Western Rome Empire. It is the last straw that breaks the camel's back. The Western Rome Empire was ended in the hand of the barbarian soldiers who were hired and used to fight for Rome. Could you please resign? Why? How dare you? I am the emperor of Rome, who has the strongest army in the world. Who are you? The boss of your army. In its heyday, the Roman army was composed of citizens and subjects. Legionaries were recruited from the ranks of citizens. All soldiers learn in Latin. Then how the Roman army came to be composed of barbarian troops. Why did the Romans hire these Germanic tribes? Because they were better at fighting. Even in the prime time, the Roman army employed foreign mercenaries, even under Julius Caesar. Caesar himself was repeatedly saved by mounted German mercenaries whom he had hired for his war. In the eyes of Tacitus, or even Julius Caesar, civilization made people soft. The fiercest fighters were those deemed least civilized. And when living in a metropolis city like Rome becomes so wealthy, entertaining, and attractive, it became everybody's dreamland. Nobody wanted to go to the border. In the end, their citizen refused to fight anymore. And when they did, they weren't very effective anyway. Whereas Italy still supplied 65% of troops during the reigns of Augustus Tiberius and Caligula. By the mid-2nd century, the contribution of the Italian heartland had dwindled to less than 1%. Rome had begun recruiting its soldiers from the least civilized areas of the empire. The best soldiers, the real fighting men, could only be found outside the cities. The mercenaries were strong, good at fighting, and what else? More economically friendly. Even better, it seemed a good solution at the time, but it led to Germanics eventually dominating the empire's army, and they would often not act in the empire's best interests. Are you Roman citizen? No. Can you speak Latin? No. Hey guys, you know what? Me neither. For most of its history, Rome's military was the envy of the ancient world. But during the decline, the makeup of the once mighty legions began to change. Unable to recruit enough soldiers from the Roman citizenry, emperors like Diocletian and Constantine began hiring foreign mercenaries to prop up their armies. The ranks of the legions eventually swelled with Germanic Goths and other barbarians. And what else? The human resource troubles were not only in the army and border. In the city of Rome, the center of the world, the population and birth rate also declined. And you know what? If one calculates Rome's average rates of population change from the 2nd centuries till the end, the declines of some modern cities and metropolitan areas today are comparable. Between the 2nd and 4th centuries, Rome's population declined at a rate of about 2% every 10 years. Between the 4th and 6th centuries, the situation became even worse. Rome declined by an average of about 5% per 10 years. Today's New York, Jersey City, Cleveland, and Buffalo are among modern U.S. cities that have experienced similar rates. The life expectancy of ancient Rome was around 20-30 years old, which means women would have to give birth to between 4.5 and 6.5 children to maintain replacement levels in the population. This was really not an easy job. If you think about their average life expectancy was around 30 years old, then how it is possible to give birth to so many babies? Romans evidently did not raise large families. The burdensome life of the later empire did not encourage child rearing. The upper and middle class families refused to raise large families and even to marry. Big cities' lifestyle are suitable for culture, entertainment, and commercial development, but may not be friendly to baby rearing, which has been proved in many parts of the world since ancient times. With the rise of the Byzantine Empire in the east, the wealthy families in the west began to move to the east, and some of them had no children and eventually donated their property to the church. About a half-century ago, there was an famous experiment called Mouse Utopia. It was famous because the result of the experiment shows, no matter how rich the material supplement was, the artificial mouse Metropolis city always went to an inevitable depopulation and extinction. Maybe even without barbarian tribes, Rome would be still on the way of decline, just like what the Mouse Utopia experiment shows. In fact, Rome was much worse than the Mouse Utopia, especially when they got the economic crisis. When East Rome had advanced trade networks, more population, and mineral wealth, Western Rome met more economic problems. Wrong monetary policy, polarization between the rich and the poor, inflation, huge consumption of years of war, and over-reliance on slave labor. The Roman Empire was built upon conquering, raiding, and utilizing other nations' lands. The Romans also heavily relied on slave labor, but with expansion grinding to a relative halt, they were unable to acquire new slaves and suffered a major slave labor shortage. With all of the above troubles, the once powerful Roman Empire began to crumble. The government became more and more corrupted. Well, the corruption is really a bad issue. But for the contribution of the fall of Rome, the political instability may have played an even more serious role. Civil war thrust the empire into chaos, and more than 20 men took the throne in the span of only 75 years. Usually after the murder of their predecessor. Near the end of the Roman Empire, the city of Rome was no longer the capital. The capital was moved to Milan for a while and later to Ravenna. As the situation worsened, many Roman citizens finally lost trust in their leadership. Dark Age Europe was born out of the violent destruction of the Roman Empire. The discussion and research of the fall of Rome were never ending. There are questions even like whether Rome has ever fallen. Maybe you can see part of Rome in every modern city. Maybe the Rome Empire never fell. That's all for today. Thank you for watching, and I will see you next time.